Thank you everyone for dialing in and welcome to the webinar Digitize or Disappear, the financial services industry in a cookieless APAC. My name is Mark Vandenhaak and I run Telium for Asia. Before I introduce the rest of the panel, just a couple of logistics. This panel, so I'll start introducing myself and then I'll hand it over to Ritza for a brief introduction. Like I said, I run Telium. Telium is a customer data platform and we work with customers in the region to collect and consolidate that data, that customer data, into one platform. We will consolidate that typically in a single customer view, and we allow customers to then distribute that data to other technologies in a safe and secure environment, and kind of like providing a data supply chain for the single customer view. And all of that is happening in real time. With me today are Ritza and Sprite. So thank you for joining me, guys. I'll ask Ritza to introduce herself first, tell her a little bit about herself, the company she works for, and the role. Can I hand it over to you, Ritza? Sorry, you are still on mute.
Well, doesn't that always happen?
That's a good start. It's a good start.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. And thank you so much, everyone else, for joining the discussion today. We hope to make it as lively and engaging as possible. So hi, I'm Ritza. I'm the Group Head of Marketing for Hugo Save. I have been working in the various marketing aspects for the last 15 years, primarily in India and South Asia, and in the BFSI space. Hugo Save is a soon-to-be launched fintech in Singapore, and it's, for all practical purposes, Singapore's first all-in-one financial app and debit card. And it's all about promoting healthy spending and saving habits and looking at financial well-being holistically, and we call this wealth care. We will launch in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we are really looking forward to it and hoping to share some of my learnings and experiences with you, and I'm hoping that it will be fruitful for you guys as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sprite, can I ask you to do the same, please?
Yes, thank you, Mark. So hi, everyone. So my name is Sprite. So I'm a customer acquisition lead at Phenomena. So I have been working with Phenomena for almost 3 years now. So mainly my job is to manage and optimizing the metrics along the funnel of the product. Phenomena, what we do here is that we build a wealth management platform that enables Thai people to invest into mutual fund with only one account open. And we also have the personalized recommendation engine to help investors to build their portfolio that fit to their goal. And aside from that, we also focus on users to invest in knowledge as well. So we have a knowledge hub within our platform that help them to unlock their potential into investment, and they can keep growing their wealth and knowledge at the same time. So thank you for having me here, and I would like to share some thought, and I hope that it helps you guys in the cookieless world. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sprite. And thank you for joining us both, like two exciting fintech companies and that are obviously looking to shake up the financial services industry. So maybe in the next slide, we'll have a quick look at the agenda. Today's discussion will be centered around some of these topics. Please do feel free to ask us questions along the way, but we're aiming to talk about how financial services is transforming in general and in Asia Pacific particularly. We will talk a lot about data, personalization, what technology stack people are using to build these personal connections, best practices, and the world around us is fastly changing. So how are marketers gonna connect with customers without third-party cookies? Web browsers are stopping third-party cookie tracking, and what challenges and opportunities does that offer for brands to build connections with your customers and your prospects? So hopefully that will be a useful session. I'll give a little bit of context while we move to the next slide and while we go into the discussion, because we've launched a report recently, the state of financial services and the increasing importance of data and personalization. And some of the highlights in this report, which will be made available to you as well after this webinar, are probably not to a big surprise, but that Asia Pacific consumers are having a willingness to adapt and embrace new technologies. And the financial services industry is also disrupted, and not only by COVID-19, but also by new technologies like the two brands we have on today's panel, helping really deliver better customer experiences and really accelerated by COVID-19, increased the rate and adoption of digital finance in not only this region, but globally, right? So that includes contactless payments to online banking. In Singapore, for example, basically 90% penetration for contactless payments already. It's the market that is adopting that as one of the fastest in the world. In Australia, there's a very fast adoption of buy now, pay later. This has doubled between 2019 and 2020. And almost 1 in 10 Australians now is using one of those platforms that are there. Regions like Hong Kong and Tokyo that have traditionally been a little bit more favoring cash payments are now also changing their habits. So the landscape is very quickly changing. And this is both exciting, especially for the fintech companies that are causing that, but also it presents opportunities for other companies to deliver more meaningful relationship with customers. Because in the end of the day, customers are nowadays expecting that, a personal and relevant experience, regardless of like the channel that, without further ado, we'll probably want to just go into that and ask the first question. So let's start a discussion discussing some of the current state of the financial services industry and how the movement to improve customer experience really is happening in the region. So Ritza, can I pose the first question to you? What are the priorities for you as a marketer in a financial services company? And how has digital transformation impacted the way that you connect with your customers?
So financial services, and I think you briefly touched upon it, Mark, at the start of the conversation, that it's kind of commoditized. There are a number of options for consumers, and there are legacy organizations who are also innovating almost on a daily basis. Personalized service is no longer the privilege of a wealth customer, and a good intuitive experience has really become hygiene that a customer expects from us. And they command bespoke and holistic solutions for their financial needs in a faster, simplest, and a fuss-free manner. As a marketer, our priority always, and I guess it cuts across categories, is to help our brand connect with our consumers in a manner that's relevant and relatable for both of us. And how we create that connection, what stories we share, and how that changes or rather evolves in response to what's happening in the society in terms of the social context, tech and regulatory developments is really critical. And what that connection finally leads to, which is resolution of a pain point for the consumers or business results for the brands, is really the outcome that both of us strive for.
Cool, thank you. And Sprite, to you, a similar question, like the recent developments in market and particularly COVID-19, how has that changed things for you and your company? Like, are you doing things now that you wouldn't have done a year ago, for example?
Yes, sure, Mark. Actually, we have to say that COVID-19 gave us a huge opportunity on business side, but it's not good in terms of like your lifestyle, right? So actually in COVID-19, there's a rise in investment demand. In this first quarter, we see that there increase in search volume basically on the mutual funds, which is related to our business, is increased more than 300% compared to last quarter. And that's because it's changed, kind of leads to change in lifestyle and behavior of the people that affect from the COVID, because they need more income, they need to change their lifestyle that they did. So we see the less offline activity and then we move more onto online. So I believe that most of companies in financial service are kind of like scaling more on the online, and that's create a huge opportunity for us as a market to connect with the customers. So I think the way that we can improve the customer experience to respond to that is that we have to delight our customer with the experience that no one else does in this digital world. So basically in Phenomena, we kind of like put a lot of effort to educate and engage with investors. So we do now schedule a live content more than ever before as a result of the COVID-19 and the change of behavior of customers.
Yeah, thank you. And that's very much in line with the report that we've done with Brace. Customer expectations are changing really quickly and definitely awfully moving online. That will be no surprise to anyone. And then talking a little bit about technology, we're already looking at the slide, like what are the type of tools that you think that every marketer, particularly in FSI, should be using to orchestrating hyper-personalized experiences at scale? Maybe Ritza, if you can go first.
Sure. So considering that we are a brand which is just about, entering Singapore in the truest sense of the word, for us, understanding what consumers are thinking about, when they think of financial services, where are the pain points, and where is the opportunity for us to really simplify their lives. So for us, listening platforms are very, very important, because we want to really understand the insights and then act upon it and build solutions around it. It's not just about marketing alone, or engaging in conversations, but it's also ensuring that we are building our product roadmap, which is totally in tune with what the customers really want. Thereafter, of course, when you're looking at acquiring a new set of consumers and building an ideal, profitable customer profile, you really also want to have partners on board that can help you look at things more holistically. So an attribution platform is really critical for us at this stage to understand where our customers are coming from, and how are they behaving over the customer life cycle. So building some of these technology platforms or partnering with them from the very beginning really helps, rather than looking at it more like a piecemeal or a fix later kind of an approach. Then of course the customer engagement platforms are really critical, because you're looking at signals and trying to kind of educate our customers, guide our customers, and nudge them into taking an action which will be relevant and beneficial for them. So these platforms are certainly important. And then, of course, a data platform, really becomes critical, particularly where you have multiple functions and multiple, matrix, so to say, for decision making. So you need to have that holistic view of the consumer, so that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. And you present to a customer a holistic solution, rather than each one of us talking our own independent and individual spiel with them.
I think that's great advice for everyone, and a lot of marketers are using a lot of these tools: social listening, data management, visualization, customer engagement platforms. I think fantastic to hear that you guys are using all those tools, and the common theme around that is often like that data that you want to basically collect and then use in your business. So interesting to hear your experience with that. Like, do you have any advice, like, for when you're looking at adopting tools in general, any advice for other businesses, or any things that you've gone through that you would basically want to help other businesses with when they are selecting tools and or adopting tools in their business?
Yeah, sure. I believe that, like I said, different companies use different tools, right? But I think the first condition that you will want to start looking for tools is you have to build your hypothesis first. You have to try it first. You don't want to invest a lot of money on it if it cannot scale, right? So I think build, measure, learn is the methodology to it. You have to try it just small scale. What it fit, it scale. You looking for the tools that help you to automate it, and you can put your effort into other part. I think that's the main criteria to pick up the tools. Yeah.
Thank you. And so, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So just to add on, I totally agree with Sprite that one really needs to understand whether that tool works for you or not. It might have worked for someone else, but may not be relevant for you. And the other bit is to kind of start small, and platforms these days offer multiple choices and options to clients to kind of plug and play. So just select the ones that you think would be relevant for you, or, you think that you need, and, play around with it till you get comfortable, and scale up your subscription levels as your organization and your brand scales up. You don't need everything on day one. So one needs to be kind of more mindful and disciplined about that.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. And particularly for businesses that are in the early days or years of their journey, the startup companies, and scaling is obviously really important. But the modern technologies can luckily support that while you scale, the subscription can scale. So good to hear. Any examples of, like, when we talk particularly about personalization, lessons learned around, like, maybe some project or initiatives that you've gone through that have success, or some key learnings? Can you talk us through maybe some of the trials that you've run, or the wins that you've had? Like, who would like to go first and talk us through a bit of a journey in this?
Okay, I can go first. So I think, there are more trials than successes that you really go through. But I guess it's important to understand as early as possible what's working and what's not working. And the problem with personalization really is how much is too much, and what do you do with all that information that you have available. Customers have, their expectations have evolved. Back then, when retargeting used to be like really new, everybody would be enamored by seeing that, hey, I saw that personalized ad. And now they go that, oh, I think Facebook is listening to me. So, it's like the journey has evolved to that level of polarization. I would just like to share an example with the audience here. And it's around, how personalization is not just the fiefdom or domain of marketing alone. And it also allows you to look at your product and your offering in a more holistic manner. So in one of my previous organizations, we were running an auto bill pay campaign, and you would think that recurring bill payments is something that all of us can drive. It's something that every individual does. And how difficult can it be to get them to set an auto pay for their bill payments? We started out, we launched the service, and over a 2-year period, we only got about 10% activation on auto pay. And we were all stumped because we thought we were doing all the right things, sending the right reminders in the right context, particularly on our own platforms. And when we got talking and when we got brainstorming, we realized that one simple fix is something that we could certainly try out. So in our bill payment messaging, wherein we kind of nudge people to set auto bill pay, we would send them reminder about an upcoming bill payment, or when it is due, remind them to pay them 2 days in advance so that it gets credited, etc., etc. We just added a single button on our platform which allowed them to set auto pay in a single click. So no more filling long forms, no more giving your cust ID and your biller details and whatnot. But a lot of it was, pre-filled and pre-populated and pre-fetched, because we went into a partnership with telecom and, utility bill payment partners to ensure that our customers really get a seamless experience. And within 3 months, the rate of subscription on autopay jumped from starting point of 10% to 45%. And, that was more of an aha moment for us. And this is about 7 years back, when you realize that when you talk personalization, it's about looking at how the journey is mapping out for the consumers. And it's not just about communication alone.
Thank you. Well, one of those topics is also the demise of the third-party cookie. And what does that mean for marketers in the financial services industry, right? So a little bit of background. Most of you probably will be aware of this, but if not, there's a really important trend, and that web browsers are actually stop third-party cookie tracking. So they stop the actual technologies that you use to track as a third party the data that happens or the engagement that happens on your website. So Safari with their ITP and their iOS 14 updates, Firefox already blocking third-party cookies in their web browser, Safari doing the same. This is all basically in an attempt to give more control to consumers and give control of the data back to consumers. And if they opt in and let technologies track their data, then fantastic, they will ask and probably expect a more personalized experience in return. So these are big tech changes that face challenges, but are also opportunities. So can you tell us maybe a little bit about how your organization is going to be impacted, or what are you doing to prepare for that?
Right, so I think I go first, so this one, right? All right, so I think the cookieless world is impact, but not that much in terms of phenomena perspective, because actually we are focusing more on using first party data at the beginning of the company. So we kind of like use our first party to like do some analysis and marketing. So we are not rely so much on the third party. So because our business model at Phenomena is based around educated and engagement with customers. So that's our marketing tactics is based around inbound marketing. So we are focused on more to be found, and we kind of like nudge them to be after to come into our onboarding journey, and that we kind of use that data when they behave into our platform. We use that data to further nurture them from subscriber into the customers. But I think this kind of like cookieless will give us a good wake-up call for most of company in FinServ industry, because first thing you have like it's kind of like a wake-up call to shift in this acquisition strategy, because you cannot rely on advertising alone now. So we also see some effect on that as well, because our remarketing campaigns on paid advertising has like CPAs rise in some platform also, along with attribution window, as Luita says earlier, because normally in financial service we got a long kind of like attribution window, maybe it's like 7 to 30 days before you convert them to customers. So this cookieless will kind of like affect you on that, because you lost some data along the way. And the second thing I think is a good wake-up call is that you have to rethink the way you build up your traction model, because you cannot focus on acquisition alone. You have to make sure your platform is able to grow organically, either into retention or referral. And you have to be more than just one solution to your customer. You have to be more than they expected. So I believe what we did at Phenomena to incorporate with the loss of the cookie, we are kind of provide the content along the platform for them to invest as well. So I think if you can do that, you are ready to the cookieless world now. Yeah.
Ritza, do you have anything to add?
Sure, Mark. So for us, considering we are a new brand and we are just about getting started, the focus for us, of course, is to build our first party data set. And the good thing for us is that, the loss of third party cookies has not really come as a surprise, in the sense that it's been in the talks for a while. And when we started building our acquisition journey, we were, of course, mindful of that. So it's not like we have had to pivot to something new. So I guess that's good. But for us, we are really looking at, working with partners who can help us reach out to our target segments in an effective manner. That is, help us connect with them in an environment that's relevant and contextual, and also gives us room to demonstrate our value. For instance, we are looking at partnerships with telecom players as well as utility players, and trying to kind of create an user experience within their own native environments that the customer is comfortable interacting in, and thereby engage with the customers to demonstrate what value can Hugo really offer in their lives within that context. So that's really important for us, and we are looking at a series of such partnerships. Additionally, we want to be very transparent with our consumers, like most of us. But at Hugo, we also want them to actively participate in helping build Hugo, not just the narrative, but also the product and the service that we offer, so that we can co-create the experience that they want and the experience that we want to deliver. And, of course, I have spoken about it multiple times during our conversation today as well, that we also certainly want to look at customers more holistically. It's relatively easier for us to build that because, we are a new organization, and that's the ethos that we are building the organization with. But it's certainly important to ensure that within the organization, there are no silos, and we collectively are able to create a net positive customer experience.
And that's fantastic. I think you both demonstrate that you continue to collect and consolidate data with consent and use that in the most responsible way, right? And at Telium, we call that the first party data revolution, and working with the data that you can collect and that you can activate. And for Braze as well, like a platform obviously that focuses on customer engagement, on data that you've collect with consent and permission around your customers. There's still a lot of things that you can do, and that actually really are in the interest of the customer. So that's great to hear. Maybe we'll ask a question a little bit more around like how you're going to take on the more traditional FSI brands, and like what is the role of data going to be in that conquest? Maybe Ritza, if you go for Sprite, please, you go for Sprite.
Okay, right. Actually, the terms of take on traditional brand, I think it would be more aggressive for Phenomena, because we are actually partnership with them along the way. So I would say that the reason that Phenomena exists in Thailand, because we believe that Thai people should have a financial wellness and be able to send their kid to school and have a good life when they retire, right? So like I said before, our business model is focused more on educate, engage, and then we monetize it later. So that's the kind of alike from the traditional brand that we're doing now. So I believe that we often say in our companies that we are give first and we take later. right? So pretty much that we create a knowledge hub within our platform to provide a free investment content for them to learn in various formats. And when after they read, after they study about it, they are ready. So they are come to our platform and start to invest. So I believe that the way that we do here is that we serve every stage of our customers. So either you can be beginners or you can be advanced. Our platform serve that as well. So we believe that the way that we do now is going to change the way that you experience in the traditional financial service. And the role of the data to make that happen, actually in the knowledge hub part, we collect a lot of data, digital data. For instance, like we use a social listening. We also look at the trends to come up with the content that kind of real time to fit that. So we would know right away that if we produce this content to our website, to our platform, there will be some reader that loves to read on this, right? And in the side of the investment part, we also dig into their kind of like history of fund that they invest in, and then we start to do some personalization based on their investment lifestyle. So I think that this is something, the data is something that you would use a lot if you want the company to grow in the hyper growth stage.
Sounds great. Ritza, like what can you share with us, and like in the light also of like your how you're planning for success in the future, but what is Hugo gonna do?
Absolutely. I think, fintechs and the legacy organizations, they are really coexisting at this point in time. And where, fintechs really have an edge over legacy organizations is that we are possibly more agile. Most of us are driven by a purpose, and, which comes from our own personal experiences, and that's where what the friction points are, and you certainly want to resolve them, of course, within the applicable regulatory and tech framework, as the case may be. But it's not so much as taking on legacy organizations and established banks, because they are also innovating every day. But I guess what will really set us apart is the single-minded focus on the consumer and the true consumer centricity, considering we are small teams, agile teams, we don't really work in silos, and we don't have legacy systems to break down or to make porous. So I guess that's where, we really and honestly have an edge over them. And for us, it's also it's literally, personalization is literally our bread and butter, right? And that's where we differentiate ourselves from others, and we look at a customer more holistically rather than just offering them piecemeal services which make them want more, but they don't get that. So for us, it's ensuring that our customers have right experience and a more cohesive and concise and coherent experience on our platforms. So I guess that's really important for us. And the other bit is that we want to listen, we want to speak to our consumers, we want them to participate in how we are building Hugo, what they expect or want to see, and prioritize basis what the consumers read rather than what the organization wants to force on them.
Yeah. Interesting. So customer obsessed, focused on personalization and using data. I hear a lot of interesting things that will set a nice course for success. Right, for sharing your experiences and your views. So I'm just going to recap and then wrap up. So what we discussed today, and what we also saw in the report that we produced with Brace, is that the FSI sector has a strong appetite for innovation. There's a lot of innovation in customer engagement with both CDPs and CEPs, the customer engagement platforms. That adoption is growing really fast, but it's still in many ways in early days, right? So embracing personalization is typically the driver, and marketers have a really good opportunity to build new and lasting relationships with customers if they fully embrace personalization and are able to engage customers in a personalized and relevant way. So brands that transforming now the way that they engage will probably be staying ahead of the curve, and like technology is really making some of these shifts possible. So the focus on customers and your continued business success continue to rely heavily on unifying data and then the ability to act on it. So for this and for more findings, particularly for the Asia Pacific region, please do download the report. We will share the report with everyone who registered for today's webinar. To find out more, you can also always get in touch with us or with our colleagues in Embrace. We'd love to help you grow your business. And once again, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, everyone.